Hello everyone, I welcome you all to another video by Legacy IAS where we are going to continue our discussion and talking about the different mechanisms and institutions for dispute resolution in the country. Now in today's time, in the century that we are in, we cannot do any such major activities without the use of technology. So in this particular video, the first such institution that we're going to talk about is the online dispute resolution mechanism, which is being brought about by Niti Aayog. We're also going to do a very important such other organization which is required or which is done well in terms of our entire legal mechanism, entire dispute, trying to resolve things between federal structure and trying to strengthen the federal structure, which is how the water crisis is to be dealt or how the interstate water sharing dispute resolutions have to be brought about. So these two important such institutions we are going to talk about in this particular video. Now, as far as Niti Aayog is concerned, the report which basically Niti Aayog released, which became the starting point of such important dispute resolution mechanisms, is how we have to design the future of dispute resolution. In this regard, the online dispute resolution policy plan was released for India with the objective of trying to reduce this, trying to avoid disputes in the first place, trying to contain it and trying to resolve it. So first, of course, we try not for it to emanate in the first place. If it has, how to manage and contain it, and finally trying to bring out a resolution in this regard. So this is expected to make actually India a world leader in using technology and innovation, all right, through this particular ODR mechanism and provide justice for every individual. Something that a preamble says, justice for all. All right, where we've borrowed this principle, our fundamental rights, directive principles all talk about the importance of providing justice to its publics with the use of technology, how we can achieve that. So this particular ODR is actually resolution of all kinds of disputes, small and medium value, all right, particularly small and medium value, whereby we're using digital technology techniques, all right, which are essentially arbitration, conciliation, and mediation. The three such institutions which we've done in our very first video. In case you've missed out on that, please go ahead and watch that. This particular process is basically trying to use technology in order to avoid disputes, contain and resolve it outside the traditional court system. Now, the traditional court system has a lot of kind of myths also attached to it. Lots of delays, pendency, all right, sometimes impartiality, too expensive. So in terms of trying to have a much faster online data driven trustworthy institution, this ODR has hopefully come to the rescue. So this particular need particularly arose during the COVID pandemic, and how there was a much need for people to seek and get justice. We had all kinds of issues in the post-pandemic period with regards to children being orphans and now having no one to take care of them, deceased or rather parents of children who have passed away, staying far away. So there were a lot of these people which really created the urgent need to have justice, and lots of such disputes have basically further burdened the already pressurized court processes. So Niti Aayog in that regard took the use of technology and innovation and tried to make this entire process much more affordable, much more effective in terms of its judgment, and timely to particularly those who need it. So we have been able to reduce this burden much more efficiently for all the different categories of cases. So here we are looking at much reduced legal cost, less time for resolution. All right, we don't really need any legal advice in some categories for that matter. All right, much more convenient and quick dispute resolution. You don't need to travel all the way and have these enormous amounts of time, money and energy devoted. You can basically work on trust, convenience and expertise. Trust because you have the data in front of you. They've tried to make the system more reliable. Definitely convenient. Time loss is reduced, travel cost is reduced, and the expertise, the people who are involved are much more specialized in their domain. So the massive potential that it can basically have in bringing in ease of doing business in India, trying to have much speedy resolution of disputes, is trying to or expected to really bring a transformational change by Niti Aayog. Also, the increased access to justice that is there, which is also a part of our commitment of the sustainable development goals. So India is really trying to ensure equal access of justice to all. So access is incomplete unless it is affordable as well. So tools like negotiation and mediation are also being used in very, very complicated situations as well. Niti Aayog, or for that matter, is one supporting or trying to bring in before its citizens this entire concept of justice and adding technology to use it. Now, this is just a supporting or adding another angle of the usage of technology in present day India, because India is one of the highest in terms of digital payments and marketing and use of mobile phones. So Niti Aayog is just capitalizing upon this ever growing speed of technology. Also, alternatively, we of course have institutions like Lok Adalats, which we've already discussed in the previous video, and Gram Nyayalayas, upcoming videos, to have affordable forms of justice. Government has also launched Vivad Se Vishwas scheme, basically in the financial sector, for tax resolution, tax dispute related resolution cases through this particular scheme as well, so that you have trust from, or rather move from Vivad of dispute to more of trust building activities. Vidhi Center for the Legal Published Policy also have come up with such ideas that we need to really focus more on such ODRs. So also we have a committee which is basically appointed to increase the base, increase the support base, increase the area of jurisdiction for ODR. Chhattisgarh was the one who actually conducted its first virtual Lok Adalat on such platforms and help providing justice in such cases. So in this regard, we also have seen a lot of successes by Niti Aayog, but there are of course some challenges that it faces, that India still is not digitally literate, and that kind of a skill is very, very important for this particular process to become successful. This digital literacy really need to encompass and broaden, crossing all ages, ethnicity, as well as geography. The kind of digital infrastructure that is also required in the first place to use it. So the access in terms of its availability is not there, and that kind of creates a very big problem. There is also a lot of trust issues that people have in such online dispute resolution technologies. So that kind of awareness support needs to be created. There are issues of privacy, which is very, very important. It's a global issue, confidentiality problem, where people feel it's much better to kind of have face-to-face interaction rather than dependent on technology. So these kind of issues crop up and really make it this entire issue, this entire problem relating to ODR implementation very, very challenging, and we really need to work on it in order to have its effective implementation. So I hope you've enjoyed this particular discussion. Moving forward to another such dispute resolution mechanism, which is between states or among states for that matter, in issues relating to water sharing. So these particular disputes that are there between states basically affect the entire pattern of federalism in the country, especially in matters of water governance. These actually have go back in times of history and are based out of a lot of historical as well as geographical lineages. So in that regard, these kind of conflicts continue to plague us even till date. So in the recent years, the problem has been further exacerbated by the issue of water scarcity and the demands, the increasing demands for fresh water. Added to that, if there is politics involved in it, we really don't see a resolution coming in the near future. In this regard, we're looking at interstate water disputes or resolution mechanisms to kind of come up and look into the cases of use, distribution and control of water. Alright, so center can basically form tribunals to look into the issue in case negotiation between the states fail. So Article 262 of the Constitution provides or empowers the center to create such tribunals to look into the interstate water disputes. So in this regard, the Parliament is the one which can help in providing such kind of tribunals for the adjudication or provide the adjudication of such disputes. And in this regard, Parliament can also provide that neither the Supreme Court nor any other court is supposed to exercise its jurisdiction in this regard in case there is such complaint. So here we basically are looking at trying to keep this particular issue separate from any kind of influence or pressure that it may have. So accordingly, the Parliament has enacted two laws which are named the River Boards Act and the Interstate Water Disputes Act. The river boards are essentially to provide for such river boards for the regulation and development of interstate river as well as river valleys. So river board is basically to be established by the central government. After the state governments request them that there is an issue, we are unable to resolve it through negotiation. So please help us with such a board to help us resolve this issue. The Interstate Water Disputes Act, on the other hand, empowers the central government to set up such ad hoc tribunals for the adjudication of such disputes. It can be between two or more states in relation to the waters that have to be shared between these two states. Now, if the state governments or the governments approach the central government for these particular tribunals, center may form such a tribunal. Now, the decision is going to be final and binding on the parties, and the same holds true that the Supreme Court or any other court is not going to have jurisdiction on such matters. Now, as far as this particular tribunal is concerned, the entire functioning has been done a lot on the extent of, in terms of the recommendations of the Sarkaria Commission. Alright, and accordingly, after the Sarkaria Commission report, which is also talking about center-state relations, several amendments have been brought to this particular tribunal. So the tribunal has to be constituted within a year of the request. The formation of the tribunal cannot be something that is pending. So they needs to be, they basically can give an award within 3 years, alright, but 2 years can be given in such certain situations as well. So maximum of 5 years of award is basically what we're looking at. So the tribunal, if it's not implemented immediately, you can basically look out for the concerned parties in case there is some issue that requires further clarifications. They have the same force, alright, as the order of the Supreme Court. So in that regard, the kind of importance that is being given to them is something that's very, very crucial in this regard. Now, there was an amendment in 2002 which was brought to this particular Disputes Act, which specified that 1 year time limit is still allowed to carry out the process of this dispute resolution. So they have been given 3 years finally, extendable to 2 years as a final. And based on these recommendations, this particular amendment has been made. Also, the role of these tribunals has been limited to the quantification and allocation of water between the states who have water, and its role is basically to have an interpretation to be done to each of these requirements. Now, lot of such issues have basically also been making headlines and gathering a lot of importance between dispute resolutions of states, so something that becomes very important from UPSC perspective as well. There are some challenges which are still troubling the functioning of the tribunals. Firstly, there is a lot of delay in the way in which dispute resolution is done, adjudication is done. One such example is the continuing rivalry between the states of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu over Kaveri. Alright, so here we really need to ensure that the entire adjudication is done timely. Moreover, the composition of this entire tribunal is not multidisciplinary. We need to have add in more and more people, not just essentially those from the judiciary. The other challenges include that the award, though given by the state is by the tribunal, is final. The states or the individuals can basically still approach the Supreme Court when they try to link it to a fundamental right for which going to the Supreme Court is allowed. So it's almost like a loophole that they've found by linking the issue to fundamental rights and then approaching the other judiciary, Supreme Court or the High Court in this regard. This process is basically divisive, and this kind of erodes the entire process of cooperative federalism that we're trying to bring into the system. Moreover, the entire issue has been much politicized, and which is really creating a problem in terms of bringing actual water and resources to the public. So in this regard, this particular issue gains a lot of importance and attention, and something that is very important for all stages of your examination. I hope you have enjoyed watching this video. It could have been slightly more cumbersome, but we've tried to kind of ensure and make it as relevant and pointed as possible. If you agree with me, then let me know by liking the video. Also share it with those who are not aware of such issues, and subscribe to more such Legacy IAS videos.